Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks to where and when.
That's gonna help me later.
You just tell me where and when, and I'll be there. Thanks for joining us again for Melbourne Real episode 3. I'm Jack the Bear, along with Martin Green, my man. How are you, Martin?
Yeah, I'm okay.
And we'll get to our guest in a minute, Andrew Parisi. We'll get to him very shortly. I've got to say first up, thanks to everyone who supported our last podcast and who shared the love and put it out there. And in particular, I'd like to say thanks to a gentleman called Matt Pasquanini, and I hope I've pronounced his name correctly. Gentleman from Ohio. He's an entrepreneur, speaker. From what I can understand, he's involved in martial arts. Just puts out lots of really cool shit online, and he has been very good in terms of retweeting the tweets and wanting to help us get our podcast out there, which is really nice. The guy doesn't know me from a bar of soap, but yet he was, just gracious enough to want to help. So, Matt, thank you very much for your support, and everyone else online on Twitter. Twitter's awesome, man. I never really fully embraced Twitter until probably the last month or so, and fuck, Twitter's great.
I still haven't embraced it. I have it. I turn it on, I turn it off. I dip in and dip out like a swimming pool.
I don't know. Just for me, it's been a really good way to reach out to people that normally you wouldn't get in touch with. Not that you can't through other means, but Twitter just seems to be, there's something just unique about Twitter. And I like the fact that it's short and sharp. 140 characters, just, it's whether it's just a micro blog or you can have a short conversation. You like someone, they follow you. Then you can PM each other. And man, again, this other guy, Jess, a guy called Josh. His surname escapes me now, and that's terrible of me. But anyway, Josh, this guy from We Live, he does the Huffington Post Live podcast. Half Australian, half New Zealand guy. Cool motherfucker, man. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. They were having a chat. Really, really interesting conversation. This guy, smart, switched on, great vocabulary on him, just seemed like a really cool guy. Reached out, said, hey, like John Rogan, got back to me, following me now on Twitter. It's fucking awesome, man. Same thing with Steve Maxwell. We're going to get, if you told me 2 weeks ago Steve Maxwell would want to come onto our podcast, I would have been very hopeful that would happen, but I would never have thought that he'd be on. So, and again, just through, I put a little video up quoting him and then tagged him on Twitter, and then he liked and favorited that, he retweeted that, and then I get an email next day, Steve will be in Australia next year and he'll be in Melbourne in April. He'd love to be on your podcast. How fucking cool is that?
Sounds pretty cool.
How fucking cool is that, man? It's just, I don't know, I think Twitter's awesome and it just opens you up to all these really great people, and I think it's that whole attracting thing going on. So, so hopefully in the future we'll have some really, really cool fucking guests on.
All right, speaking of really fucking cool guests.
Yes.
There is only right now. What's going on?
Well, we've got Andrew Parisi. Andrew is on today because, I've known Andrew for many, many years. Andrew's managed a lot of bands. He's got an exciting project that he's going to tell us about very soon. And, we caught up after about, how many years we hadn't seen each other?
I don't know. It's like 6-7 years, maybe more.
And like with really, I think you might have your mic a little closer.
Sorry.
Face him.
Yeah.
Let's do it that way.
I guess like with any good friendship, the good friendships, the enduring ones are the ones where you may not see each other for a period of time. You catch up and it's like a pause button being released. You just pick up where you left off. So it was a great catch up, and lots of change now in our respective lives. And it was interesting that we'd had all these common things were coming up, which is great. So I said, hey, I'm doing this podcast, come on up. And we talked about a podcast too, which we'll talk about. But anyway, Andrew.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
What's happening, man?
How was jail?
Well, not as good as you. You Italians always seem to, good fellas. Just, it's all true. It's all
slicing that
onions,
garlic really thin,
right.
with razor blades. Yeah, it melts in the pan.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good to have you here, mate.
Thank you for inviting me, guys.
So what are you up to?
Well, a bunch of things, but I guess probably the most exciting thing at the moment is I've had the opportunity to relaunch the Croxton Park Hotel in Northcote, which has quite a history. It was probably one of the Melbourne band venues of the 70s and 80s, and they used to have AC/DC and Cold Chisel, and in fact I think it was it was where Cold Chisel played their first Melbourne show.
I've heard of both of those bands.
You have? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So, so they've gone all right, I think. So it was one of the places, along with Bombay Rock and probably a couple of other places. It was probably just a little bit before my time.
The venue in St Kilda.
The venue in St Kilda, of course. The Old Greek Theatre.
Yep. The Palace.
The Palace. Anyway, so the Croxton and then
Village Green.
There was
Waltzing Matilda.
Waltzing Matilda, thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
And then it took a turn for the worse and went down that kind of ugly path for a long time, and became a kind of horrible pokies venue.
I watched a guy take another guy and throw him into a car, like into the side of a car, about 2 years ago at 1 a.m. They were standing on the road and he just grabbed the back of his head and just whooshka, and the guy's head just went wham, like straight into the side of the car, dented the entire side of the car, and that was the end of him. He was out. He was gone. Yeah, lovely place. Lovely place.
Oh, that happened
right outside the Crocs. Yeah, absolutely. Gold. 2 o'clock in the morning.
I think that's how they would greet people. So yeah.
And look, and from what I know, and interestingly, I grew up in the area, and I avoided that place like the plague because it was kind of frightening as a young man, and I was oddly going to the other side of town. I was going to the Prince of Wales and going to the kind of other places to see bands. So it was just not on the map. It just sort of fell by the wayside and became a gaming room, and it has been for a long time. And then an opportunity came up, and I kind of walked in there a few months ago and couldn't believe the size of the room in
massive.
there.
It's massive.
This massive stage and this beautiful setup, and I just thought, why on earth?
Why is this only for Epic over 28s?
Exactly. More like over 48s.
That's the one. Yep.
They can be fun too, though.
I find it fascinating that the beautiful girl that's on the Epic.
People over 48, you mean?
On the Epic billboard. So you're going to turn it into something beautiful.
So I've been given the opportunity to go in there and turn it back into a proper band room. So we've got the amazing Bruce Johnson going in there, and he's putting a brand new sound system in there at the moment, and we're just completely reconfiguring the space and making sure it's kind of up to date and bring it into this century, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first time I walked in there, I kind of felt like I walked into some sort of big suburban beer bar. Not there's anything wrong with that.
No.
But the fact that, the demographic in the area being that it's in High Street, Northcote, and Northcote was kind of clearly the suburbs once upon a time, and now it's miraculously become...
It's a miracle.
Exactly, thank you for that. Has, become kind of, very cool kind of inner city. And so the venue needs to kind of catch up with the area.
Well, it's not only that, it's so cool that bars from the city are moving to Northcote.
Yeah.
Purple Emerald, 24 Moons, packed up their stuff and moved from Flinders Lane to Northcote. What does that tell you?
Well, the amazing thing is, the interesting thing about this, and it's nothing new, but, there's the fact that, places like, Fitzroy and St Kilda, who are, which were always the kind of hub of the arts community and music community and all the rest of it, and then kind of, real estate agents kind of cotton on and turned it into funky, hip areas.
And then destroyed it.
A latte away from the beach,
Right.
And so, all the poor kids that live there can't afford it, and they, move into areas like Northcote and Preston and Brunswick, and, and so it's great. It's great that there's these, there are new areas that just kind of open up.
Do you worry that, does it concern you that the real estate agents are doing exactly the same thing here? Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but, well, I have. What was there? 100 new massive apartment blocks, just all up and down Lygon Street, High Street, City Road, all of that shit, Smith Street. These
heaps of it going.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's horrible.
It's horrible, and
we're
empty.
And my studio too. I think the last 5 years, my goodness, the proliferation of high density housing is it's incredible.
It's a concern for me because it's a cool place, man. Like these nice.
But everyone wants to come to Melbourne.
Yeah,
and we don't have enough, infrastructure in place. That's why we got such fucking shithouse, traffic situations all around the place that public transport isn't able to keep up. I read something else, 1,500 people on average emigrate to Melbourne, and at the current rate, we're going to outdo Sydney in the next 7 or 8 years, we're going to actually outdo them.
I think we need to stop advertising Melbourne as the most livable city in the world and say it's the lowest. See what happens. See if that changes.
Well, it will be the lowest if we keep going.
If we keep going upwards, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Interestingly, though, I was talking to an ex-state government politician, and I was asking him about the area and saying, what do we do because the traffic? I mean, it is standstill. I go and pick up my son from school, which is 5 minutes down the road, but it takes me 15 minutes to get there. It's kind of pretty bad. And the thing is, there is never going to be a day where the tram lines, where trams run over the top of the streets or anything silly like that. That's just not going to happen.
There's not going to be tram tunnels or anything like that.
No. So unless we, unless we're prepared to kind of, just cycle more, use motorbikes, use push bikes, just really kind of embrace our public transport.
Never leaving the house is also a good one.
Never leaving the house. I'm good at that one.
Just stay on the computer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just log in.
But they're that's really the key. And he was saying that if we can reduce the traffic by about 10%, it'll make a massive difference for flow. But, so it's really just about kind of convincing people. So,
Well, I think it's going to be amazing. When I first had a look at it, the first thing that struck me was how big the room was. Just your visual line, no matter where you are in the venue, you're going to have a great line of vision, unlike
the corner, for example.
Corner where, I understand the structural beams and all, but...
I saw Pole play there 2 weeks ago. Big, thick concrete pole. They were awesome. They were really, really good. She's really lifted her game.
So, so that size, and the way with the bars are, you got long bars, so even if it's full, I imagine it's not going to be too much of a shit fight to get a drink. Not interfering with the punters who want to enjoy the show. It's when he was walking me through, I said it's almost like whoever designed this place just had a foresight to see that this is what's required. It's just going to be perfect.
Well, that's right. Sorry,
and it's not going to take. I can't imagine a huge amount of capital to get this place up and going because other than a liquor paint and a few bits and bobs.
And this is the thing, the infrastructure is there, there's kind of a great reception area to kind of do all your ticketing and merchandise, and then you walk into this big room and there's no issues with sight lines, there's no poles in the way. And, with, complete respect to the corner, they've done a fabulous job programming that place over the last 20 years.
Most definitely.
And, Richard Moffat has kind of always been ahead of the game and, and he's done a fabulous job.
And he's looked after Northcote and East Brunswick as well.
And
at the
East
same
Brunswick.
time.
I believe he's no longer involved on a day-to-day level and he's kind of focusing on booking festivals.
Sure.
But still, the Venue Collective guys have done a wonderful job, and quite frankly, I'm a little bit surprised that the Croxton was sitting there because really the only issue was that it was sort of dated and tired, but structurally it is sound and it's kind of set up and ready to go. So once we get the new system in there, and that's right, Jack, once we kind of put a fresh coat of paint on, and just to update some bits and pieces, it's a rocking space. It's amazing.
And the other thing that's really cool is from the perspective of bands and, engineers and stuff, the load-in, load-out is a piece of piss.
Is there a back car park or something?
There is. Well, so there's a couple of things. So this sounds like this is like an ad. This is great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So the load-in is fantastic. It's a completely flat load-in, and you can kind of park OB vans and trucks out the back. There's probably 20 car parks just outside where you can park your truck. And then directly across the road from the venue, there's 300 car spots, that space is owned by the venue, so it's free of charge, and you can, which is brilliant in this day and age. And, you kind of compare that to the kind of battle you have parking in the city and all the rest of it.
Forget about it.
And even just for kind of touring acts where they've got to constantly kind of move their truck because...
What's the capacity?
So the legal capacity is 840
litres.
840 litres, so we can get quite a fair bit of beer in there.
Yep.
But we're kind of looking at that, so that kind of might be pushed up to about 1,000.
So that's more than the corner.
It is.
So for bands that like every time you go to see everything, they sold out, right? So effectively everything could have gone Croxton, and maybe
Correct.
more people could have seen them.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely. You know, so, and I can't really kind of discuss the acts I have just yet because we're going to announce in a couple of weeks.
But what kind of acts? Can you discuss the kind of acts?
The kind of acts are the...
all metal all the time?
Yes, flat out.
Speed metal, black metal,
black
death
metal.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, so kind of very similar lineups to what the Corner would do,
Okay,
or
cool.
what the old Hi-Fi or the Prince used to do, that sort of thing. So it's
Great.
just contemporary touring stuff and
Indie rock.
and DJs and.
What about things like would you do like stand-up comics? Like,
we would definitely be happy to do stand-up comics. So I kind of think it's a kind of fantastic space, and it's a venue for hire. So essentially, if it's touring, we're happy to kind of put it in. I think it's important that as far as programming goes, we consider the area and we make sure that it's in tune with what's going on. I have no issue with heritage acts, but I think just for now, we just kind of leave that alone and let them kind of do their usual sort of venues. But at some point, I'd be happy to kind of consider heritage acts. It's sort of interesting, the Corner is, the pinnacle of cool for bands. And, I noticed James Rain's playing there on Cup Eve, which... once upon a time, people would roll their eyes, but they're so established, it doesn't matter what they put in there.
Still enough people are going to go and watch them.
Absolutely. And James Rain's great and all the rest of it, but that's not something that I would do initially. I think I just kind of, we need to set it up the right way and make sure that people understand, particularly because of its history over the last 20 years. It's just really important that we just get the right tone and people understand that it's a credible venue, or hopefully it'll be a credible venue.
The acts will do that. You get the acts, people go anywhere.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
I think as more punters go in, they see this place, how cool it is, and how great it is to see bands there. I'm sure there'll be more and more demand.
And hopefully the acts as well. I mean, I remember seeing interviews of like Radiohead back in New Zealand, and they were talking about that they prefer to play at like the Logan Campbell Centre in Auckland, or instead of fucking whatever stadium or whatever, because they prefer the sound and they prefer the intimacy, or exactly up and down. And let's face it, as good as the Corner is, that pole sucks ass. And I mean, we saw Wolf Alice 2 weeks ago at the Corner, and fuck it, the sound was terrible. And the pole was right in the way. She stood right in the middle because they're a 4-piece, so obviously the lead singer stands right behind that big black pole. It's a load-bearing pole. You can't get rid of that pole.
Yeah.
And
the Prince are similar too. The Prince had similar kind of situation as well with very structural.
So we didn't like it. We didn't like the show.
Martin,
it was average.
Did you think about moving left or right at any point?
I did. Yeah. But I'm a little man. I'm a little guy, and moving means I got to bump into more people.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I don't like people. I don't leave the house that often, so I don't like to bump into people at the best times. But whereas, say, the Hi-Fi bar, that design is genius.
Yeah,
you got the steps, you got the levels, you got the sounds. Everything's always good at the Hi-Fi bar. You never have a bad time.
So when are we launching?
So we're opening October 1, which is a Thursday night, and it happens to be Grand Final Eve. So
Grand Final Eve squared.
So basically, the Friday is now a public holiday in Victoria.
Okay.
So we'll open on the Thursday night prior.
Have they started a public holiday thanks to the Grand Final?
Yes. So the Friday is
New
now
government
public
came
holiday.
in and promised it, and there's been a bit of a shit fight about it on Talkback today.
So next they'll be having a bloody holiday for a horse race. This country's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Or a car race or something. That'll be ridiculous.
Well, I think the issue is, I think just the Monday prior to Cup Day, everyone sort of, it's a redundant day, it's
absolutely
hopeless.
Yeah.
So I think
the whole country goes to shit.
And same thing, I think with that Friday, I think they just decided too hard. Let's just.
Wow, look at that. That's beautiful.
So that is why we're opening the night prior. So it's all very exciting. So
that's good.
We'll announce in about 3 weeks. And so we've got some really exciting stuff. We've got some really great internationals and some amazing local stuff, and really looking forward to it. It's
nice one.
Very exciting. Very
abortion.
exciting.
What are your thoughts? Nah. Speaking of abortion, what's next? What do you got?
I saw something interesting the other day on about the game. I'm not a gamer. Okay, I'm not into video games. I don't care that much for them. But every now and again, a bit of fun. The odd driving game. It's all. But apparently now there is. It's either happening or about to happen. But the latest thing that I've saw online, if I can believe it, is they're apparently going to be testing gamers for performance-enhancing drugs, in particular Adderall and shit like that, because it keeps them on point for hours and hours on end and stuff. So I thought that was just fucking so funny.
I had a look at that, and I didn't like seeing the word sports in that paragraph. I didn't like seeing the word, what is it, esports or something fucking, is it esports?
Something like that.
So, all right, look, if you're sitting on a seat and you've got this big round steering wheel and you're maneuvering a vehicle around and you've got to use your upper body strength to make sure that fucker gets around, and that squeezes into my books, my definition of sport. It squeezes in. If you're holding on to a big steel thing and you're maneuvering something for realsies in the real world, in the real life, that squeezes in as fucking sports to me. But sitting on a couch playing a computer game, nah, come on.
Yeah,
come on.
It's like it's like poker. I mean, they've had poker tournaments on sports networks. Like, what the fuck's up with that?
I don't think
that's crazy.
No,
crazy.
No, that's it.
Fox Sports, you know, the World Poker fucking Championship.
That's a game.
Yeah,
it's a game. But it's not a sport.
But on a sports network, it's just crazy.
What's your feeling on darts?
Darts I've got a bit of a soft spot for. I think darts is a great domain for guys who just have big fucking bellies and smoke and drink. Like
you're still moving your body and propelling propelling a
hand-eye coordination kind of thing going on. But I got a soft spot for darts. So darts is quite fun to watch.
Sharp darts.
They were talking about. I heard on the radio the other day. They're talking about frisbee is now part of the Olympics.
Yeah,
with a dog.
It's
just
straight up. No, I don't know what the rules are, but frisbee. There's some sort of type of frisbee that's now an Olympic sport.
So would it be?
Please not.
Would it be tricks? Would it be?
Do not be ultimate. Is it ultimate frisbee?
Like a game?
Is it futsal? Is it fucking?
Is it?
I don't know, but look, I tell you what, I will look into this and I'll get back to you on it.
If I go with the dog, I love it with the frisbee with the dog. The dogs go and they catch frisbees. I reckon that's rad. I love that.
If that was a sport, that'd be awesome because you get your dog to do flips and shit. I mean, my dog's 4 months old. It can do flips. Flips are shit, right?
Gold medal dog.
Gold medal dogs. You know, that's fine. I don't like the term for life after anything. So like when you see on the back of someone's car and it says futsal for life, nah, fuck off.
Except when it comes to being a vegan.
Vegan for life.
Vegan for life.
I saw there's one on the train station, vegan or die. I'll get fucked. Yeah. You know, take it easy.
Interestingly, most of the guys who tattooed me, with the exception of 2 or 3, have all been vegan. I don't know. It's crazy. But
I like the fact that my tattoo was a vegan tattoo. It's still poison. It's just not got any animal products in it. It's still a deadly poison that affects your liver and produces severe problems and skin irritations and gets into your bloodstream. It's just that it doesn't have any animal products in it. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you know.
I hate to think what I'm in store for.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Oh, I know people that have that actually they have narrowed it down to the tattoos that are. If it doesn't affect you, that's great. But
so far so good. So we'll, I guess time will tell.
Vegan poison. Vegan poison.
Death by vegan.
Death by vegan. Yep. Nice one.
So anyway, what do you think about the idea of the of the notion that there's going to be drug testing now for?
I think it's a great idea because you're not just playing for nothing. You know, that's the thing about, you know, I played Tomb Raider for 11 years or something to finally get to the end of it. How long it took me? I don't know. It took me fucking a long time to clock Tomb Raider 2 or whatever it was on PlayStation 2, right? And you get to the end of it and you go, cool, now I actually haven't got anything. Yeah. I've just wasted most of my life, right? I've wasted this whole year maneuvering this pixelated piece of shit. At least at the end of Extreme Games, there's $200,000. Yeah. So, of course, you're going to do whatever it takes to win that shit. Of course you're going to do that.
I'm missing something. So they're going to test for drugs.
A guy was caught on Adderall.
Yeah.
Using Adderall to
enhance
his sharpness while playing fucking game of whatever.
I was working on this, been working on this documentary for some time, and I interviewed this psychiatrist who's no longer with us. He was lovely man, and he specialised in ADHD.
Right.
And interestingly, one of his patients was a motor car racing guy, and obviously he wouldn't tell me who it was. And he would say that if he was on his medication, he would slow his track. His track speed down, and he would usually have an accident on the corner. And if he was off his meds, he would kind of make it each time. Mm-hmm. It was this kind of fascinating, area.
Performance decreasing drugs.
Yeah. So off the meds, he was just kind of,
switched on in that flow.
And the ADHD medication, whatever it was, the
Ritalin or whatever,
dexamphetamine or whatever it is, would slow him down.
Yeah, which is interesting because usually the ADHD medications are speed, isn't it? It's a type of...
Yeah.
It's a,
But if you have ADHD,
kind of,
apparently it reverses the effect.
reverses the effect of ADHD. Yeah.
Hence the reason why they don't recommend people take 5-HTP through on SRIs.
SSRIs?
SSRIs, thank you. Because the same sort of deal. It's overload of serotonin and can cause bit of harm, bit of damage.
I guess there would be also some people that say don't take SSRIs when you're taking 5-HTP. Do you know what I mean?
certainly. But they still make it
because of all those, that side effects and all those. Yeah,
but they let it be known.
List about it, an A4 size sheet of paper long, maybe cause homicidal thoughts and suicidal thoughts and all that shit. Yeah, so
all
it's
the
obvious.
good stuff.
It's like. Yeah, there's been a few times when I've been with people at certain doctors and stuff and they said, you shouldn't really take the vitamin D while you're taking this toxin. Yeah, it's interesting how you could easily just spin it back around and go, well, what if we did go with, say, nutrition and education and exercise?
Yeah, just health, just generally good health.
Counter,
It's an interesting one, that the depression, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist or a psychologist or anything along those lines, but it's great that there's a lot of focus put on mental illness because a lot of people suffer from it or know people that have suffered from it or have had experience with it. But it's interesting how people that say they are depressed usually are just feeling a bit down, or they just haven't had enough sleep, or they're not eating the right sort of food. Someone said to me, this integrative doctor, 70% of people who say they're depressed, he claims if they just have a clean diet, good sleep hygiene, so just regular bed routine, just sleep well and regularly, consistently, and exercise, just some sort of reasonable regime, nothing too over the top, and you don't have to be an elite athlete. Usually don't have those symptoms of depression or feeling down or sad or what have you.
The combination of niacin and omega-3s has a massive effect on depression. It's effectively... not in all cases, of course, but in many cases, depression is caused by nutritional deficiencies in the brain, effectively.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? If fish oil increases your elasticity of arteries and shit, and
just
circulation,
more blood flow,
more circulation, and so if you're taking a substance that allows more things to get up to here, and then you take that thing as well, and it gets it up to there, well, voila, what do you expect?
Was niacin that stuff you gave him to try a little while ago that just
flushes you right out?
Yeah,
that's right. Because what's it doing? It's flushing your, what is it? I can't remember. Flushing your capillaries, I think, maybe. I can't remember.
The little fine, capillaries,
Yep. And it goes away in 15 minutes, and obviously you don't take too much of it, but you don't want to take.
But that was pretty crazy though, because you told me what to expect. So it's like you take this stuff, and it's like this pins and needles, but a lot of heat, and it comes from pretty rapid. So
across your whole body.
Yeah, but I really felt it in the face. So I really felt it in the face.
Absolutely, right up.
And you're right, about 10-15 minutes, and then just subsided. I was like, oh, okay, that was interesting.
Did you feel better though? Was it
If I did, maybe it was placebo. I don't know whether it's meant to be an instant feel good thing, but
I don't think
it obviously reacted the way I was meant to.
You weren't taking it because of any symptoms. You took it as a tourist, right?
Yeah, that was it. It was just an experiment, and I think at the time you were trying a few different things and checking a few things out.
Yeah,
because you're all about research.
Absolutely, yeah. Give it a go.
Trying things all the time. So I said, oh yeah, I'll have a crack. And I thought, wow, this is cool. It's interesting.
It is. I wouldn't like to do it on stuff as well. I think you'd lose your mind for 15 minutes, but what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, nothing.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing go. Nothing go wrong. Did you check out, remember that vitamin D thing we talked about? Dr. Mark Houston, I think. So,
yes.
Did you have a look at him? So,
yes, I did.
What did you think of what that was about?
Well, Dr. Mark Houston's experiments are up on a site there, and I had a look at that the other day, and what a surprise. It was a real surprise that the end result was that these people reversed heart disease and reversed these dramas with nutrition, exercise, diet, nutrition, exercise.
And vitamin D.
Supplements,
But he's the guy that's about the bolus dose, He's the guy that really gets on about remember we talked about the 40,000 IU a day every other day?
I looked at the vitamin D study you sent me, and there was no reference to 40,000 IU at all. Yeah, it was you know what the bottom line was? It was in a study of elderly people, age 75 average.
Yeah.
all that study, unfortunately, that you showed me that you sent me was just if you don't take vitamin D, your performance is lowered. It didn't
All right,
specify.
I'll have a
send me the other stuff.
I'll speak to Sloth because he's one that
the
talks
research
about
continues.
it.
I'm afraid. Yeah. Yep.
We'll keep at it.
Yep.
We'll keep at it.
But so far, where we're at with vitamin D. So the point behind some of the topics we talk about here at Melbourne Real is that we're going to try and, I guess, never come to what we would call a fact, but come to the latest
findings,
the best findings we can come up with on a particular topic. And vitamin D is one that we've chosen. Now,
so should I be taking vitamin D?
Yeah. I'm not a doctor. Jack's not a doctor.
No.
We're not doctors, but vitamin D aids in calcium absorption. And so when your body is stressed or particularly stressed, you're sucking the calcium out of your bones. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. That's what it's all about. And so, because your body's constantly trying to get into an alkaline state, negative, 440, I can't remember, negative 40 millivolts, I think it is, or 7.3 pH, right?
Yeah.
When you're in an alkaline state, the disease can't exist. We've known that since 1932 when two doctors won a Nobel Prize over it. They discovered that disease doesn't exist in an alkaline environment. So how your body stays alkaline is through calcium. So calcium's the absolute key to staying healthy. How do you absorb calcium? With things like magnesium and vitamin D. They're the prime, I see, is it cofactors, is that the word? To enable you to keep absorbing calcium as well as calcium, getting calcium from many sources as you can. Now, the irony of calcium is that things like milk, they're high in calcium, and but you actually piss most of that calcium out. It's because it's an acidifying substance, because dead milk, homogenized pasteurized milk is a dead substance. It's actually really acidifying in the same way that Coca-Cola is rampantly acidifying. So you piss that calcium straight out, and your body keeps grabbing that calcium from wherever it can get it, which is your fucking bones, man. So it's no surprise that if you look up the stats on the 4 biggest milk drinking countries in the world, Australia, New Zealand, USA, and Finland, and then you look up the 4 countries in the world, the top 4 countries in the world with the most bone fractures, because we record that shit. Australia, New Zealand, USA, and Finland.
Really? Wow.
How is the biggest milk consumers on the planet also the biggest countries with the countries with the most fractures?
Yeah.
Because it's a scam. It's a fucking scam. Yes, the calcium's in it, but it's not absorbed. Yes, there's calcium in soy milk, but it's calcium carbonate. It's limestone. It's chalk. It's rocks. We don't absorb rocks because we don't eat rocks. When giraffes need calcium, they go to the little areas by the rivers and stuff where, the deer have died or some fucking shit's died, and they chew on bones. The same way that dogs chew on bones, and they get their calcium through that. Whenever their calcium levels are low, they just somehow, through their fucking pineal gland, instinctively know to get their calcium that way. Nobody chews on rocks. So putting rocks in your fucking soy milk is actually, bad for you, and it gets into your arteries and gets into all the wrong places. So,
but it sounds good.
It sounds fucking great because I can say there's calcium in it. I can put fucking, I could say there's a salt lamp in there if I wanted to just put a salt lamp in each bottle. It doesn't fucking make it good for you. So yes, the answer to your question is vitamin D, liquid sunlight effectively aids in calcium absorption, and therefore because you are alkaline the whole time, it improves your immune system to no end, because effectively you can't get sick.
How about all the reports about all the Powerades and those kind of drinks? How they're just
rubbish.
Sugarades.
Rubbish.
Just sugarades.
Just sugar rubbish. Again, just all marketing and stuff.
But the thing is, the AFL have a responsibility, to some degree, because they're out there promoting this as a health drink and to replenish your fluids and all the rest of it, and they just. Kids are kind of drinking it in bucket loads because that's what their hero.
There's probably certain kind of leeway. I was watching this program that talk about calories, and now how you buy something these days and it tells you how many calories and how much this and how much that, but they allow a certain percentage because sometimes they may be on point, sometimes they may be 10% over or more calories or 10, but overall it kind of works out. So I think it's the same thing with that, mate. There's just certain loopholes. There's always going to be loopholes where they're going to be able to get away with it. And it's all marketing. So there's a little bit of truth, but that little bit of truth gets extrapolated and then put in all the marketing buzzwords and everything.
In the same way, there's vitamin C and Ribena. Well, kind of. Yeah, kind of.
Well, I hear that those drinks, when the footballers are actually drinking them, it's actually not Powerade they're drinking, but coconut water.
No surprise at all. No surprise whatsoever. Yeah. When they pour the Gatorade over the dude, that's Gatorade.
Yeah. What's coconut water like for you, doctor?
I'm not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
We're not a doctor.
He's not a doctor. Neither am I.
Just get that. Can you see that? Can you please put the terms and conditions along the bottom? We are not doctors.
Big asterisk.
Cannot be sued for.
Beautiful.
Well, look, it's full of nutrients.
Great.
It's coming from a plant. It's got nutrients in it. It's the same way coconut oil is just full of nutrients as a skin conditioner, as a way of losing weight, because it's a concentrated source of vitamins and minerals. And one of the
great food to eat. Good as a soap. And if you're on a desert island and you need a blood transfusion, you can keep yourself alive with coconut water.
Can you?
And if you need the sound of horses, 2 halves.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Or
stuff.
a bra.
Yeah, a bra, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Want to get
got
that cup of sugar from that hot little
That's
girl
right.
on the other side of the island?
Yep.
You watch too much Gilligan's Island.
There we go.
Coconut cream pie, mate.
Yeah, no, it sort of comes. I think the way that coconut oil works to help you lose weight is because effectively, when you're putting on weight, it's that you're actually starving. That's the weird thing about it. You're not getting
ketones. It provides more ketones.
You're not getting enough nutrition. So the more nutrition you get, the more your body goes, oh, great, I don't need to keep grabbing these carbohydrates and all this bullshit.
As opposed to palm oil, which is a whole different subject.
Palm oil and palmoline is it's a whole other ball game. Yeah.
Hold on a minute. In the morning, good idea, or something I do. It works for me. Is just take a teaspoon of coconut oil, or even put in your coffee, a little bit of butter, doing that bulletproof thing. It's great, man.
Butter.
Yeah.
My girl makes a drink out of cacao and coconut oil and soy milk, I think it is. Oat milk, I think it is. This wonderful mix. It's like a Milo, but it's got something in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Get some coffee. This is Dave Asprey from Bulletproof Exec. He's the guy that's brought this to the world, and I swear by it, and friends want to do it. They love it. But initially they go, ooh. But the thing about butter, cream, milk, all derivatives of each other. So just coffee, put a tablespoon of grass-fed, unsalted butter, and a little bit of maybe MCT oil, which is a far, far stronger coconut oil. But even with the butter, man, just whip that shit up, get it down. And it slow releases the caffeine. You just feel great. And for those who do get the caffeine after crash, none of that at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's great, man.
I'm on for that.
Yeah, just give it a go. But just make sure grass-fed, organic, unsalted butter. There's plenty around supermarkets around here.
Now we're flying through the time. Time's just flying like crazy. So let's go one more topic.
Yep, sure.
Let's do one more topic. Hit me. What you got?
Do you want to choose a topic?
Work for the Dole.
Yeah, right. So a little work for the Dole.
Work for the Dole. I got in a disagreement with somebody on Facebook about work for the Dole. A person with the first of all, I want to preface that the person that posted this was called Slack Bastard.
Okay.
Slack Bastard.
Right.
So you can already sort of see where this motherfucker's going to go, and this is exactly where he's gone. And she is blaming Salvation Army, effectively for somehow, according to them, convincing the government. And please correct us all if we're wrong, because we probably are. Convincing effectively the government that work for the dole is something that should be done, and I believe the previous guy tried to implement it, and so there's all these people jumping up and down on Facebook saying this is forced slavery and it's going to bring the wages right the way down because effectively you're working for nothing, you're working for free. It's exactly the same as slavery, and so people like Salvos are going to profit massively from it if they're not profiting already, because all these volunteers are going to come through, and so it was amazing. This Facebook post, there wasn't a single positive comment. Everybody was grumpy and bitter and upset about it, and this is fucking bullshit and yeah. So I trolled it a little bit and I jumped on and I said, well, here's a funny thing. I was on the dole when I was 18, fresh out of university, and this is in New Zealand, and we implemented work for the dole 20 years ago. And I go for my regular interview. I'm supposed to be looking for a job, but I'm trying to be a rock star, man. I'm trying to be a musician, fresh out of uni. I'm in a band, and we're doing really well. I don't want to get a job as well. I want to write songs during the day and and have experiences and stuff.
Rock and roll all night, party every day.
Fucking A. So I go and I sit down, and the lady says to me, she goes, what's this? What's this university degree doing here? And I said, yeah, I got a university degree. And she goes, oh, no, you can't. Nope. You can't be on the dole, mate. Sorry, you can't. Why are you on the dole? I said, because I'm trying to represent New Zealand, be a rock star and go overseas and kick ass, be like the Finns, man, hook it up. She goes, yeah, I don't care what you want to do. You're not doing that. No. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to work for the dole. Okay, what do I have to do? Well, 3 days a week, you're going to go work as a teacher's aide in an intermediate school. What does that entail? Well, you're going to be in a class with a guy, and you're going to sit amongst the kids, and you're going to help them. You're going to help remedial reading. You're going to help whatever you can do. So I did, and they paid me an extra $21 a month. That's $21 a week for transport costs to get my ass up there. And I hung out with those kids who had like the little penguin hands, and I helped them read. And I hung out with this devil spawn, just a absolute cunt kid who was just the worst kid I ever met, and tried to help him read, but I couldn't. He was just a maniac. And I got with him. I sat with the kids as if I was a student, and just generally helped the teacher. They realized really early on that I could play music, so I got shifted into band, and I helped these kids produce a rock band, and I worked with them for about 4 or 5 weeks, I think, maybe 6 weeks, until I went, fuck, I should just get a job because I'm not getting paid for this. And I tried really, really hard to convince this principal to, hey man, this is really good. You could pay me if I could, nah man, no budget. So how is this positive? Well, what it did was it just made me go, all right, I've been out and I'm dealing with people and I'm interacting and I'm doing stuff. Fuck, if I'm going to do this, I might as well get paid. So I got a job, didn't I? I got off the Dole. That's one success story for work for the Dole, isn't it? And I've never gone back to the Dole. So yeah, I got bullied pretty hard on Facebook for mentioning this little story that, people got pretty upset, but there's pros and cons, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't see in principle there's an issue with it. I think sometimes you've got to go into the hard place and be challenged, because that in itself can be good. That can make you go, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore. This is just, no. And then that kind of forces you out into, your call to action to do something that you really, really want to do. It's like no one can really appreciate the good stuff until they've experienced shit, whether it's a bad relationship, bad job, bad, living conditions, what have you, just as another kind of motivator, to get you out there. But I think that the whole sense of entitlement thing is fine. If we need a safety net in society. I think we definitely need it. Any kind of compassionate society needs to have some kind of safety net. And there's always going to be those people who, through no fault of theirs, just got a really fucking shitty life for, sometimes through their fault, sometimes not through their fault, but nonetheless, they're just less fortunate than others, and so they need a little bit of help, and that's fine. And then you're always going to have those cunts who are just going to be good at milking the system. But for the most part, man, you know what? I think we need to earn it because we value it more. It's like with anything. I had to, going back to this artistic thing, I had a guy who, anything that we pay for, we work for, we value more, basically, And it's the same with when we buy things. I had a guy ring the other day, said, we talk about business cards. We can talk about this another time, about the business card thing. But he often do the art for nothing. And I understand where it was coming from, because for him it was like, you know what, it's a small thing, it won't take me long, it's a logo, it's a bit of text, boom, 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 you're done. And I'm like, well, why are you getting this for nothing, man? This is what you do. That's your job. Mm-hmm. That's how you make your living. You're an artist, yeah? So why are you just devaluing yourself like that? And I appreciate the thought. It's very kind. You're a sweetheart. Thanks, man. But I'm not going to value it either. The thing, if I was to pay for him or at least do some kind of contra for it, So getting back to this work for the Dole thing, I think people, earning anything is what, makes you appreciate things a lot more, value things a lot more, take care of things a lot more when you give something, so just to take. And it's just unsustainable. Look at countries like Greece. I mean, it's because they've had this unsustainable pension scheme where people, from what I understand, and if I'm wrong, please correct us, you could work for 20 years at a job and you're entitled to get a pension of 70% of your salary. But you also had an entitlement, and if I'm not mistaken, to your dad's pension. Even though your dad may have passed away, you inherit that. And so the government just paying all this money. I don't know how it is in Italy or other, but it's fuck, man. So there's this sense of entitlement, like I'm entitled to this, and well, hang on a minute, motherfucker. This is unsustainable. How are you going to keep doing this?
I guess the flip side, the flip side argument is that, and it's kind of slightly off topic, but I guess because we live in a modern world, and there are kind of websites like freelancer.com and fiverr.com and whatever, and so it's so competitive out there, and people grossly undervalue their services, and you can get things done for $5, or you can get massive loads of like at the moment we're kind of looking at getting some stuff transcribed, and the it's so cheap, and the problem is, you know, what does that do? Everyone is just, people will exploit that opportunity to underpay people.
Absolutely.
And people are desperate for work, so they'll kind of, you know, it kind of creates its own problem. And so I think you're right. You know, we need to put a value on things, and people shouldn't be doing things for free. But it's such a competitive world. So if you don't do things for free or very cheaply, you're not in the game. So, you know, what's the solution?
So what happens in equality? How then you're getting the realm of people that will pay exorbitant amounts of money for something that isn't worth that much, but there's still a value attached to it, and because
you
the people selling that, yeah, there is. I mean, there's a point where there's value for money, and then there's this kind of sliding scale beyond that of, you know, of diminishing returns. But still, though, people go out there and wouldn't think twice about spending a whole bunch of shit because it's a certain label, it's a certain brand,
and that just comes down to clever marketing, and people
choice.
think that people think they're getting something extra, you know, because of the brand.
Are Dr. Beats headphones really worth $300 fucking whatever dollars? I don't think so.
Still made in China like everybody else. Yeah.
You know. So anyway, we better wind it up, man. You got to pick up your kid. I got to pick up my kid.
Sure.
You don't have a kid. Your kids are here.
Dog's licking and shaking and jumping around.
She's a beautiful dog.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks for coming on, Andrew.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for telling us about what's happened to Croc.
Yeah.
So October
1st
is up and running.
Copy
so we'll let us know when it's happening.
Yeah.
And is there a Twitter or Facebook?
That's all being set up at the moment, so we'll announce in about 3 weeks. It'll be out and about. All the information will be out and about in about 3 weeks.
Nice one.
Well, let us know, man. We'll just spread the shit out of it, and hopefully it'll be really successful, man. I'm sure it will
guys.
be. You got a good team down there, so it'll work really well.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank
All
you.
right, no worries. Good to see you, Andrew.
Take care.
Thanks,
Cool.
man.
Cheers.
All right, thanks, guys.
Sweet.
See ya.
Laters.